Roald Amundsen. He lived from 1872 until his tragic death in 1928 when he tried to rescue Umberto Nobile, who had crashed with his airship into the Arctic Ocean. In the years 1903 to 1906, he sailed with a Gurja, a ship, the Northwest Passage. And previously, other people, they had always walked a part of a distance on the ice. And then he wrote a book about it, Amundsen's Northwest Passage, in 1908. And then there was another person, Robert Peary, who made it in 1909 to the North Pole. Roald Amundsen wanted to do it as the first person, but it wasn't working anymore, so in 1911, Roald Amundsen became the first person to reach the South Pole on the 14th of December. 35 days later, Robert F. Scott made it. And Roald Amundsen then did some other things with airplanes or with airships. Together with Umberto Nobile, he was able, after some unsuccessful attempts, in 1926 to fly over the North Pole. And he also contributed a lot to the scientific and geological knowledge in the Arctic. He did it with dogs and on skis going to the South Pole from the Ross Sea at the Bay of Wales. And that is he was from Norwegia. And that is according to Exploring the Ocean by Trevor Day on the pages 34 and 35. The positions and views expressed are the ones of the source and not necessarily aligned with my own or with the ones of the entity spoken of. Hi and welcome. I am trying to learn maritime studies today, Roald Amundsen, and after we've done that, we're going to do wrist training, and if you participate in the wrist training, it's at your own risk. Roald Amundsen, he was born in the year 1872. He was a Norwegian explorer who commanded the Gjør on the first complete sea journey through the Northwest Passage in 1903-1906. Roald Amundsen, I remember, was named, we did it previously, in Arctic Ocean, I think. Or he crossed something important in the Arctic Ocean, or the Antarctic Ocean. Okay, Roald Amundsen, he was from Norway, he was an explorer, and he had the ship which he was commanding, the Gjør. On the first complete sea journey through the Northwest Passage 1903-1906. I don't really know where it is. Okay, he made the Northwest Passage 1936. Is that the one over the Arctic? Previous journeys were partly on foot over ice, so maybe that was the one. He became the first person to reach the South Pole in 1911. Okay, Roald Amundsen, 1911, the first person going completely down to the North Pole. He published his account of the voyage of the Gjør in Amundsen's Northwest Passage, 1908. Okay, 1903 to 1906, he was doing the Northwest Passage, I guess over the North Pole, more or less, with the Gjør. And then in 1908, he wrote a book, Amundsen's Northwest Passage. 1911, he went to the South Pole. Amundsen then attempted to be the first person to reach the North Pole, but abandoned the endeavor on hearing that Robert Peary had reached it first in 1909. Okay, 1980 brought out his book, Amundsen's Northwest Passage, how he with the Gjør traveled Northwest Passage, but not to the North Pole, wherever that was, the Northwest Passage. But when there was Robert Peary, he reached in 1909 already the North Pole, and so he went 1911 to the South Pole. His book, The South Pole 1913, tells the story of his dash to the South Pole. I don't know what dash means. Is it something from card playing? It would be very interesting if dash is a word for it. Using dog teams and skis, he approached from the Bay of, I think it's Wales, like the animal, Wales. The Bay of Wales on the Ross Sea. Arriving on December 14, 1911. 35 days before the British explorer Robert F. Scott. Okay, Roald Amundsen reached on the 4th of December 1911 the South Pole, starting at the Bay of Wales at the Ross Sea. 35 days later, it was Robert F. Scott who made it down. Amundsen contributed. Now, in the architectic studies, there was one of them too, I think, didn't make it back or something. So probably what I've got. One of them. So Amundsen contributed, maybe it's later written. Amundsen contributed much to the scientific and geological knowledge of Antarctica before returning to the Arctic in 1918 and setting out in the Maud to sail along the whole northern coast of Europe and Asia. Okay, he was doing a lot of scientific and geological working there and attributed to the knowledge of it. Attributed? Whatever. Contributed to the knowledge of it. 1918, he went from Antarctica to Arctic Bay. So it's the Antarctic Ocean. Or the Arctic Ocean and Antarctica. Antarctic and Antarctica. He got to the Arctic in 1918 and set it up and got them with another ship, no longer the Gröa, now the Maud, and sailed the whole northern coast of Europe and Asia. Okay, he started somewhere probably in Scandinavia and sailed with the whole coast over to Siberia and Alaska, I guess. Amundsen then turned to air exploration and, after a number of unsuccessful... Let's not speculate around. Amundsen then turned to air exploration and, after a number of unsuccessful attempts, flew over the North Pole in 1920. He flew over the North Pole? Okay, he flew over the North Pole in 1926 in an inflatable airship or blimp built and piloted by the Italian explorer Umberto Nobile. In 1928, Umberto Nobile's airship crashed into the Arctic Ocean. Amundsen was killed when his own airship crashed while attempting to rescue Nobile. Okay. Roald Amundsen. So, in 1926, together with Umberto Nobile, they overflew in a blimp the North Pole. 2 years later, Nobile had an accident. He tried to save them and died, I guess, as well. I think both died. Okay, let's look at that also. If we have Umberto Nobile also. And we have one person also. Now, Umberto Nobile is not here. And Robert F. Scott. Okay, it's Maritime studies. Wise or exploring the ocean. Robert F. Scott isn't here. Okay. So we don't know it about Umberto Nobile, but Roald Amundsen, he died trying to rescue another person. Okay, that was Maritime studies. But if you were here for Maritime studies, you can go directly to the next part, where we try to make a presentation and saying that what was best said about Roald Amundsen. If you stay here and participate in the wrist training, but this is at your own risk. Good and stand, arms up, hands on the fists. And bring them down and up. And hands like that, in. And we're having 3 rules. The first rule is that we're stopping immediately as soon as there's pain. The second rule is that we're going only as far as we can go with a little bit of effort. Hands like that, in and out. And the third rule is that we're not overdoing it. We just want to strengthen, not to exhaust. Hands like that, open and close. That means you can take a break whenever you want. Hands out, down, and up. And fists, and bring them in, up, out, down, in, and the whole thing back, down, side, up. And now one hand next to the body, bring it down with a fist and press from the inside. And pull from the outside, and from the top. And with the other hand, press down and press from the inside, outside, top, and from the bottom. And now both hands up and just press, release, release, and last time press. And now press with the fingertips of one hand on top of the fingernails of the other hand, open and close. Again, open. Change. And now, both hands up, strong fists and flexion and down and up. Turn around, down and up. Again back, down, and both hands to the sides, bring them down with flat fingers. You can take a break, up with strong fists, down. And try to flex the biceps, straighten the arm, bring the fingers into flaring and the wrist into extension, press against the back of the fingers, change the other arm, try to flex the biceps, hand into extension, flare the fingers and press against the back of them. And again, arms up, flare fingers, close. And both hands up and bend them at the knuckles. Up again and bend. Up. And both hands again up and claw them and try to spread the fingers apart. Open the claw, spread them apart. One more time. Open. And one hand, bend it. You can take a break. Press one side. Press again. Open. Other hand, bend at the knuckles. Press onto them. Open. Both arms up. Strong fists into flexion. Out extension, flat fingers. In arms, strong fists. Out extension, flat fingers. In. And again out. In. And long arms, strong fists into flexion. Out extension. In strong fist flexion. Out extension. Now you can take a sock, have it with a long arm if you're outside, let it fall down, try to catch it again, wander slowly in front, and on the other side, let it fall down, wander slowly in front, and now go softly, the thumb over the arm, and also on the other side. Not much pressure, softly, gentle, and nothing else. Go over the fingers again, not pull at the fingers, gentle over the fingers. And also on the other side. Don't pull at the phalangeals, don't pull at the fingers. So don't press too much, gentle. And that was the wrist training. I thank you very much. And until next time.